All right, man. Well, hey, guys, thank you guys so much, man, for inviting me to be a part of what you guys are doing today. This is cool, man. I get a chance to be around some good friends and meet some of you guys that are newer, so I hope I get a chance to do that after we get done and get wrapped up here. It's cool to see what God's doing through Carolina Movement, man. It's just cool, and I hope I can, maybe give you guys some things to think about today. And man, we can keep locking arms and moving together. So, if you guys are cool with it, I'm going to say a quick prayer, and then we'll just go ahead and dive in. All right, Father, we thank you for this opportunity, and Lord, I pray today that these words God, I pray they would rattle, they would open minds, Lord, not because they're brilliant, not because they're even strong, Lord, but because you're moving, you're doing something. And you give us rationality, and you give us practical tools alongside of your inerrant word to wrestle with the times and the mission of our day. And Lord, I just pray right now, God, that we would have an incredible time together as friends that are trying to do ministry and alongside of each other. And I really want to make a huge impact for your kingdom. In Christ's name, amen. Amen. Well, hey, guys, I'm going to jump right in, all right? And what I want to do is I want to give you guys a very long introduction, okay, to what I want to talk about. And then I'm going to give you 3 very quick myths and 3 very quick charges moving forward that are all around growing and going. They asked me to talk about the connection between growing and going, between the church growth, aspect of our ministry and the multiplication aspect of our ministry. And so that's really what I want to do. And I want to tell you guys on the very front end, okay, because I have friends in this room, and I would imagine that because of the friends that I know are here, I would imagine that if that is kind of who the rest of you guys are, that probably a lot of things I'm going to say, you guys are going to already kind of be there. You're already going to kind of agree with it, I think. What I am going to advocate for, though, is for us as movement-type churches to maybe if I can, I'm going to be a little passionate to try to embolden and free us to not only maybe kind of think about some things this way, about, really kind of promoting the connection between growing and going, but maybe even to become a little more aggressive in the way that we talk about it, okay? Because I think that there's some things right now, in terms of just what I put my finger on, that really can restrain, I think, what God is trying to do, specifically in the state of North Carolina. I mean, you guys can't tell me that there's not something that is just bubbling underneath all of us right now. I mean, we had college students out last night at UNCG. 6 kids got saved on campus. I mean, just from people sharing the gospel. I mean, it's just happening, right? Some of us have been praying for this for decades. I know if you're anything like me, I am tired of living in constant decline in terms of what the church is doing, in terms of the narrative around it, right? Like, I want to see movement and advance. And man, that's God's to give, but it's mine to ask. It's certainly mine to beg him for and to prepare my life for when he actually does it, right? And so we have this kind of bubbling movement that's happening under us. And yet at the same time, in my opinion, and this is where I can be listen, I got to just tell you, I lean prophet, okay? And I don't mean to like ruffle people with it. It's just my nature, okay? So I almost want to overly say at the beginning, friends, and I'm not specifically talking to you personally, but I am talking about the culture around church that we find ourselves in, I think needs to be pushed back on. And I just lean a little bit prophet. For example, my daughter plays competitive soccer. She'll play soccer for high school. She plays, travel soccer and all that. And my wife will, because it's not just like when I'm preaching, I just kind of lean a little prophetic, like in my tone. My wife will text her before a game, and she'll say to her, "Sweetheart, I hope you have a great game. I hope you have fun, and we love you." I'll text her the same day, and my text will say, "Hattie Joe," that's my daughter's name, "you are a warrior Viking queen. You better knock somebody on the ground within the first 2 minutes of the game, and if you don't get a yellow card, don't come home." That's my text, okay? So, the difference in those two. So it's like, man, God just kind of wires you a certain way. So if I can, and among friends, I really want to just speak as freely as I can today and just be like straight, and that doesn't mean I'm talking directly to you because I don't know a lot of you guys, but I will tell you, I do want to talk to the environment that we're in and try to rattle us a little bit to maybe see something that is there. Listen, as a practitioner, and I'm going to tell you something, man, I'm in. Guys, the idea of planting churches, like, I could not be more in. Our church has planted a church, and when we say plant at Mercy Hill, and I'm not putting this on you, I'm just saying our definition, when we say plant, we mean parent. Okay, so like when I say we planted a church, I don't mean we partnered, and I know Carolina Movement does a lot with partnership. Partnership is the greatest pathway to get to parenting. I'm all for it. But we have parented the last 6 years in a row. That means an elder from our team that was raised at our church with a team from our church, funded, trained, significant portion of the funding, the training, 9-month residency after they've already been there for years. The last church we planted, it was a guy that we met as a 19-year-old kid at North Carolina A&T. It takes 10 years to build a church planter. That's what it takes. And that's what just happened. So when I'm talking, my point is this. I'm trying to establish a little bit of credibility. I am in on the whole multiplication game, okay? Man, I'm as in as you can be. But as a practitioner, this is what I would say, and this is kind of the message that I want to bring today. We're talking about growing and going. Y'all, I think I have my finger on the single greatest challenge we face for more church planting in our state. And I would say that the greatest challenge, this doesn't mean that what I'm going to say is not a challenge, okay? But the greatest challenge is not convincing more people to plant. The greatest challenge is catalyzing more churches to actually grow. Okay, I want that to just sit because that's a little counter sometimes to to the narrative. I am not saying more churches don't need to be convinced to plant, okay? That's not my point. I'm all in on that. I would love to do that talk, okay, as well. But if you ask me, what is the single greatest factor holding us back from the idea of more churches being planted? It's actually a mindset shift around growing. It's a mindset shift around adding, around counting, around the icky stuff that we're kind of like, ooh, I don't really love that. You're talking about percentages and growing and people and, man, how many cars are in the parking lot? I'm talking about all of that stuff. All the things that you can think of that have an ick factor, those are the things that we need a mindset change around. And if we had a mindset shift around that, mixed with the last 20 years of missiology that has gone way in the multiplication direction, which is good, if we had a mindset shift around some of the growth stuff, I think that we would be in a pretty good spot, man, and maybe ready for this revival that is bubbling up underneath us. I think about it like this, and again, I'm not talking to you, I don't know, but I'm telling you, I've seen this enough, and we have worked, Mercy Hill Church and our Breaking Barriers ministry has worked with dozens, and now like in the hundreds of churches across North Carolina, okay? And I'm just telling you what I see over and over again. It's a little bit of that matrix moment where we need sort of the red pill, because people don't realize that they're living and have swum in a fishbowl of anti-church growth mentality for so long that they just can't even see it. And they don't quite understand sometimes. Again, I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm just saying what I see in the culture. It may apply to you. I have no idea, okay? But I'm not putting it at your feet necessarily. What we don't quite realize is how much this stuff has affected us. And then it gets so upstream in our thinking that we have a hard time going after with oomph and gusto and conviction the things that we need to go after from an upstream way that will end up trickling down into church planting. We feel bad about it almost. It's like, man, and people are like, no, I want the church to grow. It's like, okay, let me just ask you straight. Like if you were to say to your people, if you were to say to your staff tomorrow, you stand up and you say, man, I have a prayer goal in the closet. I want to see 20% more attendance next year at this church than we have this year at this church, and that's the goal. I know what we say. We're like, yeah, man, I'm all in on church growth. Would you feel icky about that? Like, would you be like, man, we couldn't do that? Like, our staff would be like, that's not what we're in the game for. That's not what we're doing. We're here to make disciples, because you haven't made a disciple until you make a disciple that has made a disciple. And I got the whole talk, okay? I got it all, man. But what I'm saying is, can we freely say we are going after more people getting saved and baptized and the church getting larger? If we can't say that, then we have been radically affected. And it's all around us. I mean, we don't see it because we're in the fishbowl, y'all. I mean, I want you to think about this. I want you to think about how you can go to an entire convention of the largest evangelical denomination, I know it's not a denomination, / network in our state, who all the guys there I love and I'm in, and we give and we do all the things, okay? But at the same time, you go there and you will have a breakout on every single thing under the sun except for how to make your church do better and grow. We'll have a breakout on adoption. We'll have a breakout on women in ministry. We'll have a breakout on diversity. But I want to know when's the last time you had the breakout at the conference that said, hey, man, grow your church by 20% in the year 2025. It's like, man, we're not going to do that. You know, how about the sending boards that we have, which again, we're in, man, and I love. But the sending boards will have every type of catalyst in the world around church health, around church this, church that. But where is the place that you go in those sending agencies that are just like, man, we're here to help you get more. We're here to help you be stronger. We're here to help you actually add to the kingdom in your local community. Here's the problem, all right? And this is the first thing I told you, long intro, okay? So the whole thing, but here's the thing, all right? The problem is a lot of the anti-church growth mentality. Okay, in my opinion, it is founded on a falsehood. I'm not saying somebody lied, but I am saying it's wrong, okay? It's founded on a falsehood, and here's the falsehood. The falsehood is that multiplication is the lead measure, and it is not. The falsehood is that multiplication is the input that we should focus on, and it's not. Church growth is the lead measure. Multiplication is the lag measure. Church growth is the input. Multiplication is the output. Now listen, I understand what you're gonna say because I would say the same thing. Yeah, but a lot of churches grow and they never get to sending. Shame on them for that. That's what I get it. I'm with you. That's fine. But don't do the inverse, right? Don't make the same problem just falling off the other side of the horse. I can't tell you how many times, y'all, listen, I can't tell you how many times I've been in rooms where I was gonna give a talk on church planning, and the churches that were in the room, none of them were going to have the amount of first-time guests for the year that would beat the average attendance on a normal Sunday in their church. I don't wanna say it too fast, okay? Just a straight, easy benchmark. How are we doing as a church? Are we growing? Okay, easy benchmark. How many people do you have on the weekend? 200. Okay, now I'm not talking about Easter and I'm not talking about July 4th. Okay, just generally. How many you got? Man, we're running 200. Okay. Are you gonna have more than 200 first-time guests for the year? For the whole year? If I'm in a conversation and I'm asked to talk about church planning and the churches that are represented there are nowhere even near that average, I'm gonna tell you what can happen. I can stand on my head. I can jump up and down. I can wave my arms. I can do the whole discipleship talk. I can do the whole thing. And they can be in on it. They can believe it. They can amen and all that. And they're not going to plant. They're not going to multiply. They might partner. And I think partnership is great, man. You got to partner your way into planning. I get that. They might be able to give money. They might be able to sponsor. But in terms of actually sending their people out, they are not gonna have the bullets to fire the gun again. They're not gonna have the wood to keep the hot fire blazing if they're not replacing through their people sharing the gospel, through their people inviting, man, through people coming through the doors, hey, through people moving in from out of state, whatever. If they don't have that to replace what is there, then they're not going to be able to plant. And yet they can agree with you about multiplication all day long. Now, here's the thing. This is what I want to say. Again, I'm not talking to you specifically. All right, I'm just saying I want us to be more bold about this stuff. And I think this is why Corey asked me to come speak to you guys, okay? Is like, man, here's the biggest irony of it all. We have done this to ourselves. We largely have kind of boxed our minds in with I think kind of bad thinking, and we've done it to ourselves. And you just think about it, man. It's pendulum swing. That's what they do. We had church growth, then we had multiplication. But if we don't find the balance between those two things and understand that one of them absolutely comes before the other, One is a lead, the other is a lag. One is an input, the other is an output. If we can't get to that place, man, we're not going to be able to see the things that we want to see. And we have done the bad thinking sort of to ourselves, man. We've kind of taken this steady diet in of just years of conferences and the books we read and things like that. And it has produced this heart that feels icky when I start talking about how many website views you have. Right? We feel real spiritually when we're having a different conversation that are more downstream about missionaries, about churches we're planting, about all that. We love that. But when you talk about the things that actually produce that upstream, we all get this kind of little bit of an icky feeling sometimes. And what I'm trying to say is, man, we should not spiritualize the one while we demonize the other. I mean, this is the culture that we live in. I pray to God that it's going to change. We celebrate sending while we demonize growth. And I'm going to tell you, if I was trying to design a plan to kill a movement, that is exactly what I would do. I would create a ton of cynicism around growth. I mean, the way we talk, guys, the way we, and again, I'm not talking about you and me, I'm just saying our culture, okay? The way we talk about church growth, you would think we were living in a glut of growth. You would think that we were living in just, every church is just booming and there's thousands of people that are coming to churches and then they're falling away and there's so many people that they're not getting discipled. And you would think that's what would be happening, except the statistics tell us that between 70 and 80% of churches in the nation's largest evangelical movement, the Southern Baptist Convention, are plateaued and declining. And then this is what we do. This is the most ironic thing in the world. We stand up and we mourn the decline while simultaneously refusing to celebrate the growth. If I was trying to kill a movement, that's pretty much exactly what I would do. Man, I want you to know I'm in on sending, man. I'm so in on it. That's why I'm passionate about the upstream stuff. You know, man, we're in on it. Our church's long-term vision, our 2032 vision, the highest star is to send 500 missionaries out by 2032. We've sent 214 to this day. And these aren't people that went on a trip. I'm talking about people that are gone, like they've moved, okay? They've either gone overseas, they've gone on a church plant. The sending thing is what I am after. But there's just a raw fact that if we are not growing, we will not go. This is the tagline that we use at Mercy Hill. Churches can grow without going. I get that. We see that, and that's a shame, right? Like we need to engage that. I get it. Churches can grow without going, but they cannot go without growing. They cannot go in a sustainable way. A year in, year out, we're sending people out, all right? So, guys, that's my long intro, all right? Now, in my opinion, there are three kind of underpinning foundational myths that sort of hold up the anti-church growth movement. Okay, at Mercy Hill, we call it the tyrannical grip of the anti-church growth movement. All right, and I want to give you those three. I'm just going to give you the three little underpinnings that I see. And you know, man, we can wrestle with them. And I'd love to, we can talk about this stuff all day. Afterwards, we can be friends. You know, agree, disagree. That's fine. All right, but here's the three things that I see that to me are kind of the bedrock of the anti-church growth movement. The first one is this: church growth, if it happens, that's fine, but it shouldn't be celebrated. Man, it's one of those, it's a pride thing, it's a sheep stealing thing. You know, it's pastors going to get the big head thing. As soon as we begin to celebrate it and we act like God has actually done a work, you know, that we're really just kind of bringing honor and glory kind of to ourselves, and that's sort of the first thing. And my question is this: you know, what else do we see God do that we don't want to give him the glory and credit for? I don't know. What other things can you name that we're like, hey, we're trying to give God credit and glory for that, but we actually don't want to because we're so scared that we might become prideful about it? Listen, here, let me give you a little two cents here, okay? Any pastor that has ever seen any growth in their church has dealt with the sin of pride. And here's the answer to the sin of pride: it is not to take your ball and go home, right? The answer to the sin of pride is the same answer to every other sin. The book of James tells us what to do. We confess to God for forgiveness. We confess to each other for healing. And that's what we do. And that's more of the posture that I think that we need. Well, don't celebrate growth. We're going to end up, bringing all this back on ourselves. You know what? I'm not even saying that's not right. That probably is some of that. And when that happens, we need people that will help us, around us, check us on that. We need to be able to bring our confession to each other and to the Lord. I'm trying to live free, man. And I'm trying to help you guys kind of get free, or people that you're around, people that you influence. Man, to get free. We will never, ever run after the things that we need to see God use us to grow our churches and to go in our churches. We will never run after those things as hard as we need to if deep down we feel bad about it. If deep down we're afraid of it. And I would just say, man, we've got to get free from that. Confession is what God gives us. If things are going well and we end up sort of having that reflect on us, then we need to deal with that. That's part of maturity. Man, that's part of growing. That's part of having brothers and sisters in the faith that check you on that, right? What we don't do is just take our ball and go home. The church is the bride, and she deserves to be celebrated. I don't know where I would be without the church. I don't know where I would be without the church growth. I mean, my family at some point was a number and a statistic on somebody's sheet because they weren't involved in church, and then they were. And they got serious about their faith, and me and my sister ended up getting saved. Like at some point, that was a church growth statistic. This is what it was. And it's like, man, I'm so grateful for that, and I want to be free from the ickiness that we feel around that. I said this earlier, I'm just going to say it so you guys can write it down, but guys, think about how crazy it is that we mourn decline without celebrating growth. I mean, I just think for us, it's good for us to try to connect the celebration of what God is doing before our people and let them see what that is. So here's the problem. This is what we do. If we celebrate sending type stuff, I would put sending type stuff in terms of church planning. I would put it in terms of missionaries. I would also put it in terms of just community engagement, man. Like, we're going to celebrate the pregnancy network, or we're going to celebrate different things that we're doing in terms of our church's outreach. And I just gave you guys a story. Those college students sharing the gospel last night. Like, if we are always celebrating those things, but we never will celebrate what produces those things, the lead measure that goes to the lag measure, we're tacitly giving our people sort of this idea that the growth stuff and the websites and the giving and the business side of church and all that is a necessary evil to get us to where we want to go and the things that we want to celebrate. And y'all, it ain't... This stuff ain't a necessary evil. In fact, it's not evil at all. It's not a necessary evil. I mean, think about it. It'd be like saying, hey, we love to celebrate businesses who give money away, but we hate to talk about their profit. It's like, think about that for a minute. Like, you don't get to the generosity if you're not generating a profit. There's a lead and there's a lag. And what I would say is, man, we need to celebrate the leads. We need to be able to stand up and freely, man, without fear of backlash and without fear of the Instagram account that pops up because somebody is in their mom's basement or whatever, okay? And writing stuff. We've got to be able to say, man, we're going to be free to say, hey, you know what? You know what just happened? Like, we just had 500 people serve at an event or whatever. Or, hey, you know what just happened? We had 100 people come to Easter for the first time, 100 brand new families. Can you guys believe how awesome that is, what God is doing? If we can celebrate, man, the growth side and keep them connected. What we try to do all the time is pull these things apart. What I'm trying to say is, man, they've got to stay together. They've got to stay together in truth as well. I mean, think about this, all right? At Mercy Hill, the 10-year mark, we did a study at 10-year mark at Mercy Hill, and here's what we had found. And I knew the numbers were going to be like this. I bet you the numbers are like this in your church, okay? I bet you they're almost somewhere in this ballpark. If you're a church that takes first-time guests seriously, okay, in terms of like getting their information and stuff. All right, here's what we found out. For every one sent one that went out on a mission team, and I'm not talking about on a mission trip. I'm talking about they leave our church for 2 years or more unless they're doing a gap year as a high school student, and that's 1 year. All right, but that's what they're gone, okay? So there was sent one. For every missionary, we had seen 10 baptisms. for every baptism, we had seen 10 first-time guests. Think about the numbers, okay? I knew it was gonna be like that. You wanna get to a missionary, you need to see 100 first-time guests walk through the door for the first time. And if we will celebrate the one without celebrating that 100, something has gotten divorced that always should have been together. Right? And so for us, it's like, man, I told you, I'm in. Sending people, and not even just church plants. If you asked me, if you just said, man, what is the highest calling for why you planted Mercy Hill Church? I could tell you without a doubt, it is to send people to the hardest places among the most unreached. That is why I'm in the game. It's what gets me up in the morning. That's why I do it. All right? I know that for me to get there, the way to get there is to get super serious and celebrate the heck out of people walking into our church for the first time. First-time guest tent. I'm not going to spiritualize one and demonize the other, all right? Second myth is this. I think these are three myths I think kind of they're lurking at the bottom of the anti-church growth movement. And if we get free from these three myths, man, I think it helps us a lot, all right? So I told you the first one, man, don't celebrate growth. I think the second myth is discipleship is only one-on-one mentoring. Now, I'm going to be really clear about this, okay? This might be there's a point of disagreement or whatever, man, that's fine. Again, we can be friends, and I'm not talking directly to you. I'm trying to be a little prophetic to the culture here of which we're all trying to do ministry. I am certainly not saying that discipleship is not one-on-one mentoring, okay? I'm certainly not saying that. I mean, I would imagine that Paul had a pretty deep one-on-one mentoring relationship with Timothy, okay? So I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the myth is that discipleship is only one-on-one mentoring, all right? So a lot of times what people end up saying, they say things like this, all right? I was at an event, bring a bunch of pastors in, big churches. This event, I mean, really the most influential churches, many of them in the Southeast when it comes to growing, and many of them going. Many of them are planting churches and all that. And they bring a guru in to speak to all of us, and the guru says this, I am so tired of the church getting in the way of making disciples. And my heart just sank. Listen to this quote. I am so tired of the church getting in the way of making disciples. My heart just sank, man. I'm sitting there. It's just the same script. Guys, if you take the red pill, you will see this everywhere. If you wake up from the matrix, you will see it everywhere. And it just was ironic. I'm like, all right, man. So here we are. We got 20 of the most influential, larger, sending churches that have all been brought here to be lectured by this dude who's not a pastor and literally leads nothing. He's not a leader. That's not what he is. He's not a leader. He's a commentator. So he's not in the arena. He's outside of the arena talking about who's in the arena, okay? And he says, I'm tired of the church getting in the way of making disciples. And what he means is, what I want churches to do is to implement only and always, because this is what you see at every conference, a one-on-one mentoring strategy, one-on-one discipleship strategy. And it was just so funny. I'm just sitting there, I'm going like, man, it's funny. None of our churches that produced us that are sitting here knew how to disciple anybody, did they? That's kind of what I was, I'm like, that's funny. Like I grew up in a church that knows none of this language that you're using. I grew up in a church, small Southern Baptist church that knew nothing about any of the stuff that you're talking about. They have no clue. This would all be foreign to them in the way that you're presenting it as the only way. And yet they didn't know how to disciple anybody. And yet we're all sitting here, Here's the point that I want to make, all right? There is this commitment to a one-on-one discipleship that is awesome and great. And I want to, man, I'm not against it. I think especially for guys that are going into ministry, like a Paul Timothy type of thing, but we also have to understand that the programmatic part of what we do as a church, it is effective in discipleship. Okay, so this last thing I'll say, and then I'll move on to myth 3, because I need to move, okay? Here's what I would say. We live in a culture right now where and this is why it's so anti-growth. This is why it so underpins the anti-growth movement, because it's so anti-programmatic, all right? It's so anti anything that's more than one-on-2 or one-on-1 or one-on-3. If I was to say to you, man, who discipled you? This is a real conversation I had with a real discipleship guru less than a year ago. And he said, man, who discipled you? And by his own definition, by his definition, the answer would be no one, okay? Now, by my definition, if you said, who discipled me, I would need a piece of paper and about an hour and a half. Does that make sense? Because if you want to ask me who discipled me, I got to get my mama to go back and tell me the name of that Sunday school teacher when I was in 3rd grade. I got to go back and figure out everybody that I ever heard preach a sermon. Okay? But we have so narrowed the idea that now all of a sudden everything that the church kind of offers and that we see the church doing in the scripture is like, now that's not discipleship, because discipleship is defined in this one. That's myth 2, all right? Myth 3, last thing I'll say, and then I'm gonna give you 3 quick charges and we're gonna be done. I'm gonna get out of here on time, all right? Myth 3, this one kills me, man. Preaching isn't that important for making disciples. This is at the core culturally of our, and here's how you see it. It's like, man, we don't want to celebrate the fact that 100 new people are coming to hear the sermon. I will stand here and I want to tell you my position absolutely unequivocally. There is no greater 40 minutes in the entire week for both evangelism and discipleship in your church and for your city than when you stand up and proclaim God's word. All right? So the idea that we are moving beyond that, the idea that, you know, that the real mature believers, they've kind of moved beyond that. They don't need the preaching of the word. You know, that you know, what they need to be able to do is, this is crazy to me, is divorced from the church. I heard one person actually define, you have made a disciple when they can go on their own and make a disciple without, quote, needing the rest of the church. What does that even mean? Why don't you just cut the Bible out too? Why don't we say this? Hey, I'll know I made a disciple when that guy can make a disciple without ever using anything from the Bible. Then we'll know we made a disciple. Matrix, blue fish bowl. Okay, I mean, it's just where we live, y'all. And what I would say is, hey, we've got to push back against that. We've got to push back and we've got to say, no. Preaching is so important for disciple making. Listen, I'm going to tell you this. You can disagree with it. People in the culture certainly do. In our anti-church growth culture, the most people become Christians when there is a crowd and a preacher. It's as simple as I can make it. If I was to ask this crowd, you go to ask your church, you ask any church in America, if you're saved, and because a lot of people aren't going to raise their hand, that's not because this didn't happen to them, it's because they're not a Christian. If you are a Christian, when you gave your life to Christ, was there more than a one-on-one evangelistic encounter? Was there more people in the room and was somebody preaching? I'm just telling you, 90% of every room in America is going to go, well, yeah, that was me. It was a youth camp, or it was whatever. You know the irony of this? The irony of what I'm saying, I'm so passionate about it, that's actually not how I got saved. I actually didn't. I got saved in a Winn-Dixie parking lot in the front seat of my dad's truck after a church league softball game. That's my Southern Baptist credentials, okay, right there. But you understand, so I didn't even get saved in a big group setting like that. But most people do. They do today. They have always. I would encourage you to go back and to read through the book of Acts. 3,000 people got saved from preaching in Acts 2, 5,000 in Acts 4, after the preaching of Acts 3. Acts 6 is clear. When the apostles devoted themselves to preaching specifically, the numbers of disciples were multiplied. In Acts 8, those who were scattered by persecution, the Bible does not say they went about one-on-one evangelizing people in a coffee shop. I'm not demonizing that. I'm not saying that's wrong. But I'm just telling you that's not what it says they did. Go back and read it in Acts 8. They went about preaching the gospel. Paul's ministry in Acts 9 was founding on proclaiming Christ in the synagogues. I could go on and on and on. The idea is crowd and proclamation. This is an underpinning of the anti-church growth movement, because you guys know this as much as I do. You get around certain circles, I'm telling you this is true, people celebrate the one-on-one evangelistic encounter over a coffee shop after relationship building that has taken years more than they do the kid that raised their hand at a youth camp with 100 other kids. And it's wrong. I'm going to put it in Southern for you, okay? Y'all ain't none of that right. There ain't nothing about that that's right. I love evangelistic encounters one-on-one. My daughter's leading a Bible study at her high school right now. I love it. I mean, I got saved through that. My dad has an evangelistic gift, like some of you guys might, but some of you don't. I don't. All right? He has an evangelistic gift. I have seen him share the gospel literally with hundreds of people as a blue-collar worker and a school teacher. I mean, he's just got it, man. But that doesn't mean that when I read the book of Acts, what I see there is carrying over into what I see now. Listen, there are one-on-one encounters in the book of Acts. We fully understand who they are. Lydia got saved. The Philippian jailer got saved. You think about Jesus, the woman at the well. I understand all of that. But I also understand that when you actually add up the numbers, it's like 99% of the people in the book of Acts or more, there was a preacher in a crowd. And so we can't feel any type of way about that. Man, we need to continue to do it and step into it and lean into it, all right? All right, guys, I'm going to transition here, okay? 3 myths that underpin the church growth movement, and the anti-church growth movement, and 3 quick charges. I've seen a clock back there, but I feel like did y'all add time for me? You did? Oh, man, okay. I think I didn't quite realize that. All right, let me give you these 3 real quick, and I'll be done, all right? Hey, 3 quick charges. Growth is a magnet that pulls both ways. Guys, I just did 40 minutes of talking about church growth, but you got to understand, it's also dangerous. Churches are either, this is exponential language, very helpful. They're either declining, plateaued, growing, reproducing, or multiplying. Here's what I want to tell you. Church growth is a magnet that pulls both ways. Here's what I mean. If you're in decline or plateauing, we need to be having the growth conversation, not the multiplication conversation. But if your church is growing, man, it can become real hard to want to take that next leap into the reproduction and the multiplication conversation. It's a magnet that pulls both ways, all right? So we have got to have the maturity to understand, man, this is not a growth thing. It's a grow to go thing. Second charge. Every church, I believe, should dream to plant a church, man. And when I say plant, I mean parent. It's like and man, it might be one every 10 years. But can you imagine the joy? Can you imagine the joy of raising up an elder over years, having them have relationships they have built in your church where they can go out and they can recruit a team of 5, 10, 15, 20 people? Man, be a primary funding partner for them. Not the only one. You're not going to be able to do it by yourself, but man, primary funding partner for them, and to see them go out and be successful. Can you imagine the joy of that? And so I would push all of us to think about that. Hey, partnerships is a little bit like that growth conversation. Partnerships can be a magnet to pull both ways. If you're not planting and you're not involved in it, the number one thing I would tell every church is jump in a partnership. Man, give money, have the guy come preach, but if you're not careful, partnerships become so easy because you get all the reward and none of the risk. You get all of the, hey man, we're doing it, and we're getting a guy, he comes in and preaches, and our people feel really great, but you didn't have to actually cut your arm off like you do in a church plant when you actually send out that guy who's got all those leaders and all those tithers, all right? So I would just call you to think about that. And then the last thing I'll say, and I'm done, hey, 3 quick charges. If you get the growth thing in your mind, we're growing to go. 3 quick charges that get us toward going. Man, multiply everything, all right? If you're thinking to yourself, what is the one step that we need to take in order to get us in a place where we can plant churches? The one thing I would tell you is multiply everything you can. Churches don't just wake up and multiply one day. Churches multiply after they have multiplied everything else. Churches only reproduce or multiply after all of their systems, all of their bands, all of their services, if you're multi-site. After everything else has multiplied, that's when church planting happens, all right? Guys, it's been incredible being with y'all. Chris, come on back up, man. Thank you. Sorry, I'm over 3 minutes on my time.